I don't know how much time you have, so I want to spend whatever time we got left talking about the situation with the guys. Now, I am nobody, Chief. I am a regular agent, an average agent. I was an average sign cutter at best. I was an average, pulling over cars at best. What I excelled at was a whole different thing. I started the chaplaincy program in San Diego sector. I'm very proud of that. So I'm not that agent, but right now, I get messages, Chief, every single day. I get text messages, I get phone calls, I get messages through Messenger, and every way you can imagine. These guys pouring their hearts out to me, telling me what's going on. You say that they've had 4 out there. Sometimes in Yuma, they've had 2 in the whole AOR. They tell me when they've completely gotten overrun. They tell me when we've always had that thing where we clean up for 10-12s, right? Stay in your area, don't be caught sleeping, whatever. We even clean up a little bit, but we've never transported bodies, Chief, from one processing area to another to clean so that they would see an empty cell, which happened a few times in Yuma. It's happened in El Paso, it's happened in Del Rio when 10-12s come, including the Chief, including Mayorkas, including Magnus. These guys are feeding me a lot of information from the field. They are right now faced with a completely open border policy, record numbers coming in, trying to process and manage those guys, literally drowning in the people. They've been hit with a vaccine mandate that is not only, I believe, unfair, but completely illegal and threatening their livelihood, threatening their retirements. They've been 7 years, 12 years, 14 years. Guys are taking off as soon as they're eligible. They're hemorrhaging manpower like unheard of, right? While still trying to stretch the manpower thin. Mandatory deployments from the northern border, the coastal border, every other month with sometimes a few days notice, right? Mandatory overtime, which is not real overtime, 6-day work weeks. These guys are being pounded to the ground. But you touched on it earlier. You said, and we've had this conversation about the fact that right now, from the top all the way down, as far as the higher ups, the word is processing faster, facilitating as many bodies into this country as we possibly can, but it is no longer enforcement. And just to get that question down to a conclusion, you said it yourself in another conversation we had. The Border Patrol was created in its essence as an enforcement agency, right? So what do you tell these guys? I mean, what have you heard the same thing from them? The same heartache, the same brokenness. Even the Chief said at one point in that Laredo muster that he recognized that morale was at a record low. Done.
I hear the same things, and just for the agents that maybe if they're in a processing area right now or we're just finishing the shift or whatever, I hear it from every level of management as well. So I do still know quite a few agents come in over the years. Some guys chose to stay in. Some of my classmates chose to stay an agent. I still talk to them. But obviously, as you move up in the ranks, your inner circle, if you will, is more of that same hierarchy, right?
Yes.
I want you to know that I want the guys out there to know I'm hearing the exact same thing from the senior management. But orders are orders. That's the catch, right? So as long as it's not an illegal order, you still have to carry it out. But I know the guys at DC, they're also retiring, but they're fighting each day. They're trying to make sure that the consequences of the decisions are heard and acknowledged. They're trying to document things so that if there are hearings and stuff later, you can figure out who made what decisions and all of that. I ran out of really great stuff to say though, but this is the end of the day. If you look back at the history of this country, there's been some dark times off and on where people thought, it's over, they can't get any worse. And we snapped back.
Yeah.
So I don't have anything to say that's going to make the next shift or the next 2 weeks, or the next 3 weeks shifts better, because I'm watching the same thing and I'm hearing them. And I didn't like processing, man. I ended up at that checkpoint on I-19 because the other soups hated the checkpoint and I hated being inside soup. So I made an agreement with them. I would take checkpoint every freaking day if they never assigned me inside, right? That's how much I hated just the administrative processing. So I get it. But here's the deal. It does still matter. With everything going on right now, it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. If you would just stop and look at the SIRs and look at the pedophiles, the murderers, the rapists. And you guys all know, the agents know, those of you that don't know, those are U.S. criminal databases, where there's no such thing as like a global database, right? These aren't like crimes they committed in El Salvador or Peru or whatever else. That means they've been in the country, they violated our crimes in a very significant way, and either left or were deported and came back.
Yeah.
But just those numbers show that what the agents are doing every single day still matter. It may only be 10 a day. It may only be, 100 in a day. But how many terrorists does it matter that you take off the streets? We know for a fact there were 23 known or suspected last year. And that was even during this total chaos. So please just don't give up. The job still matters.
Yeah.
It's going to get ugly, but I want you to know there are people fighting for you. And we're fighting for like weird stuff now too, that even if we can't get this administration to shut off the flow, force them to acknowledge that Border Patrol agents are border security professionals. I would argue they always have been, but 9/11 and the creation of DHS solidified that in law. There's nowhere in the mission of the Border Patrol or CBP even that says Border Patrol agents are there to process immigration cases. They're there to create operational control of the border. That's by law. So force CIS or somebody else to come in so that even if you're still dealing with massive numbers, somebody else has to process them and the agents can get back out. So we are still working on some other creative solutions to just acknowledge the fact that this administration, there's really not anything we can do to force them to close the border right now.
Sure.
But we're looking at other options. But man, just please don't give up. This is still this will be an awesome job again.
Yeah.
And more important than that, I think 99% of the agents got this job because they actually care about the country. They're true patriots.
Yes.
And we need them still filtering these people out. That was the whole idea behind the NTR, which it lasted a short amount of time. But the idea behind that was to get agents back on the border, admit Biden's going to let them go, get agents back on the line to find the criminals, the terrorists, the cartels. Because we all know, and this is a message you got to get out there. We all know that the cartel is using these massive numbers to shake the border to bring in all those other threats. We've got to convince, if we can't even get the federal government, we've got to convince people that Texas's response matters. It's not going to slow down the flow, but every single person Texas DPS or National Guard arrests would have been a gotaway. And we need to hold. I was in New Mexico all of last week talking to leadership in New Mexico to try to get the people that look like they might win the governor's race at the end of this year to step up and do something like Texas did. Mm-hmm. And I know that the union is very heavily involved, and some of the other people I'm involved with are doing the same thing in Arizona. California is a freaking disaster. I would go talk to the governor, but then, he would lie like he did last time and say we never spoke. So that's a waste of time.
No, but I understand that.
We can at least, there are things we can do, but bottom line, man, I know I'm rambling.
No.
Don't give up. The mission just still matters as much as it, probably more than it ever did. And I'm not encouraging anybody to be leakers, because I'm a big believer there's law enforcement sensitive information that should not go out, but there's generally acceptable information just about what's going on that you've always been free to share. They can't take that away.
Yes.
But don't be afraid to document stuff in emails too. If you think it's a violation of law or whatever, that stuff can be subpoenaed later. And there will be hearings on what's going on. And I believe, like the blanket paroles and some other things, I believe the actions are actually illegal, not just bad policy.
Yeah.
But right now, they can't seem to do anything about it because we don't have the right leadership in Congress or the Senate to hold oversight hearings. But we will at some point. Yeah.
Well, okay, Chief. So yeah, you know what I've been telling the agents, because I've been racking my brains, because when I do get the phone calls and I need to, offer some kind of encouragement. Well, the first thing is, you know what, you're gonna have to decide to buckle in and ride this out, because the pay is good, the benefits are good, and the retirement is glorious. Right. The retirement, it's a great retirement. When I had 1 minute, I had no prospects in life. The next minute, 25 years later, I'm retiring with the patrol. And I am so grateful, because my livelihood, I can do whatever I want right now, thanks to my retirement. So there's things and it does come fast. It came way too fast.
Yeah.
And I mandatoried out at 57. So I tell these guys, the pendulum's going to turn back. Even, we do have to admit, nobody in the patrol has seen this perfect storm of illegal immigration, the numbers, the COVID situation, the helplessness, the releasing thousands of bodies a day just to make room for the ones that have been sitting out in the field for, for sometimes 24 to 36 hours because you can't even drive them in anywhere, right? Nobody's seen anything like this. So Chief, as an agent myself, retired now and gone, these guys have yet to hear, I believe, a rallying cry. In other words, where is that, rallying cry and, guys, I know what you're going through. I know this stinks. This is the worst we've seen, but you know what? Together we're going to muscle through. They have yet to hear that, Chief. And I know you're too much of a gentleman to speak against our chief now, against the administration. I know is open game. And I respect that because, you are the kind of chief you are, and that's why we all respect you. But I have something against this, Chief. I've heard him say, the message is clear, the border is closed. I've heard him go on Fox News and say, this is nothing we haven't seen before. It's no big deal. When the rest of the country knows that it's a crisis, that it is a crisis. They calling in FEMA. They don't call in FEMA for a non-crisis. So I guess what I'm saying is, what's the rallying cry for these guys here? What's the leadership cry when they can't speak the truth to management? They can't speak the truth to their own leaders and say, speak their hearts out to them and say, this is how I feel, Chief. This is how I feel, whatever. What's the rallying cry?
First and foremost, you can always reach out, but I'm going to thank you for setting up the chaplaincy program. Between chaplaincy and peer support, that is one outlet. Maybe I shouldn't say this, but I equate it to our fix for the death of choir practice. So we used to all get mentored involuntarily at the end of shift, right? But the big thing that I think we all kind of discount how important that was.
Yeah.
You would go home to your family, to your wife, your kids, whatever, and you would have vented and you would have released all of that frustration. I'm worried right now because there's really not a lot of places to safely vent, right?
No, there isn't.
And there's some ripple effects right now I heard about within the patrol where we're starting to see that, and we need to self-manage because we don't want to give there are enemies out there of the patrol, right? Some may be in the White House. We don't want to give them any more ammo. We proved to them that the reason the horse patrol investigation is not closed is because there's nothing there. And they just don't want to close, but we don't want to give them something that they can use. So please talk to each other. We are the guy right to your right or to your left, or the gal in front or behind is your best advocate. That's where the rally cry really needs to come from. But this whole management versus PAs thing sucks. It's a Border Patrol family. Some of it's kind of fun and jovial, but there's bad examples on both. I met some of the managers that part of the reason I ended up promoting, right? I know they exist. But they're going through the same thing. The difference is they have to come out. They're really tasked with coming out and putting on a good face and a show and trying to make people think that everything's okay. And you could do that at a certain point in time, but come on, it's a freaking Titanic and it's taking on more water right now.
Yes.
It sucks. And I think that's kind of the right response sometimes, but it sucks. But the mission still matters. The guy to your left has your back. The guy to your right. That's what's always made the Border Patrol family so tight and the Border Patrol so strong.
Yeah.
The Border Patrol will get through this and they will survive. There's going to be some casualties along the way that people get stressed out or people do stupid things. Just don't let it be you. And then last but not least, I think I gave this speech once just before I left. Do me a big, big favor. This is for the troops out there, but do me a big favor. Every single day when you will leave that station, your little spidey senses go up and you're more alert. And when you hear somebody's voice on the radio change a little bit, you're headed that direction before they ever ask for backup or call out a 1010 or whatever, right? Right now, more than ever, you need to be doing that in the station as well. When you see somebody acting out or see their behavior changing, step in early.
Yeah.
It takes more risk sometimes to ask your buddy, hey, are you okay? What's going on? Than it does to run into a hail of bullets for some freaking weird reason. That's just
it's true. It's true.
But that family dynamic, looking out for each other and actually just having the courage to, hey, let's go have a cup of coffee or whatever, or knowing when to take a break. That's going to be life or death probably through this time. I mean, I hate to say it, be overly dramatic, but I really believe it is. So we got to look out for each other.
Yes.
Man, don't forget, there's going to be days that you'll hear what I've just said and you'll be like, yeah, no way, the mission doesn't matter. This is a joke now. The mission still freaking matters. No matter what's going on today, we got to look at the end game, the long term. The mission still matters. We prove that you can make significant impact on border security. That's why I believe that the cartel fought back so hard. They learned to use these people like never before, and they're
Yeah.
encouraging the flow as well. Because as long as we have this massive flow, you're not going to be able to get to those other areas as often that we need to.
Yeah.
Don't let that define who you are as a person, and don't let it define your actions. Because let's be real, human nature does nothing to do with cops, but we get to be on camera when it happens. When do you not react the way that you would like to? When is your temper a little shorter than normal? When do you react a little quicker than maybe, not, I don't mean in a good way, but like overreact? When do you're at the checkpoint and you take that stupid hook from the idiot with the camera and now you're going viral? It's when you're stressed out. It's human nature.
Yes.
So, man, and again, Debbie Downer a little bit here, but
Well,
it's not going to get any better for a while. And I think acknowledging that and just saying, hey, even though it doesn't, I still have a great career. I may have a sucky job for 2 years,
yes,
but
Chief.
my career,
Yes.
the career, and to preserve this country, and then we're able to use this as an example of how to never ever have border security again and fix it long term. I don't know. You got to focus on that.
Yeah, no, that's what I tell them, the same thing. Look, first of all, we're in it for the haul for right now. You got to decide if you're going to stick it out or not. You got to take care of what matters most to you, yourself, your career, your goals, your dreams, and your families. If you have a family, then you got to, all that's got to, they're suffering right now too, right along with you. And then, when you come home a mess, they're a mess. And then take care of each other and to take care of those in management that are trying their dangest to take care of you in this environment, which is they make it as hard as they possibly can for a lot of the managers. But I know that there are first line soups, there are, packs and watch commanders and all. In fact, I hear from people also in HQ, and they're sick to their stomach too with what they're seeing. And so, that's, I think, that's what I believe, and I was going to ask you, but I'm not, but I was going to ask you, if you thought I was being fair or unfair to this current chief. I want you to know, and I'll go on record as saying, I would have rather blasphemed the Pope than blaspheme my own chief of the patrol, Ortiz, you, anybody. And I just felt like I had his best wishes at heart. I wanted to work with him throughout this whole thing. I ended up with this platform. I don't know why me, but here I am. And I just felt like things could have been said. He could have still not gone against the flow, but he still could have said certain things, right? Certain things that would have let the agents know, I know this is worse than it's ever been. I know you're drowning in this crap. I am trying to, I'm doing my best. And I think all of us, most of us would have rallied up against him, right? Would have rallied up with him on that. But we have yet to hear that, Chief. And I know I don't want you to speak on it or feel like you have to, but I just believe that we still have yet to hear from him a heartfelt, get behind me, let's muscle through this together. I will do everything I can to keep you intact through this, as best I can, in spite of the fact that we have, a far left president that's not even in charge. He's not the guy running things. Mayorkas, you can just Google it. This isn't you and I just gossiping, but he is a liberal and he's hated the immigration laws of the United States. He's made a career of hating the patrol and immigration laws. You have Magnus, who is also far left, BLM believer. And okay, so they get their chance to do their crap. So I don't know. I say all that to say is that I think the guys, all they need is one little kernel of, I know this is shit. I know this is the crap, but we got this. But we're going to, like you said, to have to go against my own management, to have to go to put this dynamic. And I know I'm part of it. I know, I don't know if you insinuated that or not, but I'm part of that process, right? I am button heads, I believe. It's the last thing I want to do, Chief. The last thing I want to do.
No, I get it. And I'll let your words kind of carry the day, because I think you did highlight what I'm hearing from a lot of agents as well. I've been on both sides of this, right? I've been the angry guy at the IB muster when things are out of control. Sick of walking OTMs out the front gate, not even getting them to an NGO, whatever. And then I've been on the other side where I've said things or handled things in a way in front of a muster that, man, if I could rewind the clock, I would have changed it. It's just not what I meant. It came off kind of weird, whatever, right? So
right.
It's a tough spot. But every man has to have his day, right? And every leader chooses how he leads and what he says. So
Yep.
I'm not here to necessarily defend, anybody's specific response or to highlight one or the other, but we're a big family. And one thing I used to say in musters all the time, and hopefully anybody that ever met me knows that this is what kind of carried the day, is I don't think you can ever BS a PA.
Yeah.
Every border patrol agent, man, if you've been a border patrol agent for like a month, you've been lied to so many times by the people in front of you that you can see right through it. And I get it. Nothing irritated me more. My kids had to learn very, very quickly. Like, I could tolerate a lot of stuff, but don't lie to me, because
Yeah.
not right. So I encourage every one of the managers out there and the leaders out there. You got to lead. You got to move forward in
Yeah.
this environment. But you can't BS a PA. So just be honest. And I've found that PAs, when you come on, we're a big family and as human beings in nature, but PAs are kind of so used to being behind the curve, or behind the 8 ball, if you will, that I found when you're open and honest with them and share the stress or the frustration together, that it doesn't demoralize morale or mess up the operation or anything else. It actually kind of helps more. So I would encourage all the leaders out there to do that.
Yeah.
But there is an acknowledgement in certain positions that if you don't want that position to be a civilian that's similar to everybody you just described from outside the Border Patrol, that whoever's in that chief position, the other chiefs, and I talked about this, there's no chief that's ever dealt with this before. There's
Yes.
no chief that's literally had an enemy in the house watching every email you send, every message you say.
It is true.
It's I that amount of stress. And then anyway, I'm not going to judge, but at the same time, I don't fault any of the agents for their frustration either.
Look, Chief,
Yeah,
the thing
I'm gonna
about it
leave- I'm gonna
is
leave it at
that
I think.
as an agent, I'll be honest with you, I didn't have to know everything, but I know enough to know that there are certain people in the patrol that I would take a bullet for, even to this day. I think you are one of them because, heck, I made a coin after you. So what does that tell you? If tomorrow you were to say, I want every retired Border Patrol agent able-bodied to meet you at the border to shut it down, I guarantee you 98%, 99% of us would be there dragging our old asses with our sciatica and our freaking, everything else, having to pee every 20 minutes. We would be out there on the dang front lines behind you, because that's the way you led. Okay. And I don't, you can't expect all leaders to be the same. Everybody has their favorite chiefs. Not all the chiefs were perfect. Not even you, I know, but you instinctively as an agent, I didn't have to know everything, Chief. I just had to know that the guy that was in charge of me recognized who I was and where I was standing so that he could deal with me in the reality of the situation. And that's really, I think, the number one pulse of everything going through. If I was to put it all together into one phrase, it's like, acknowledge my reality and then lead me through it. You don't have to take it away. We're agents. We can handle any crap you throw at us. We're going to handle it. Even this unheard of, never seen before crap. You know what? We're going to make our ancestors proud. From the very first agent to today, we're going to fall in, and someday 10, 20, 30 years from now, there'll be some other guy talking about us as being those who held firm and held the line in the midst of one of the worst dang storms in the history of America and the Border Patrol. But we need clear-cut guidance. We need clear-cut, acknowledgement. Let us just like you said, tell us the truth. No matter how ugly it is, we will fight and die with you, right? And so I think, bottom line, if I was to suggest something higher up, down up the chain right now, I'd say, you know what, just come out and be honest. You don't have to be derogatory to the powers that be. Just be honest with us. And you know what? If we know you have our back, we will do what I just said, Chief. You could call us right now. We would join you on the border and kick ass, in a second.
Well, I appreciate that. And my commitment remains the same as what it was before. I think I was pretty honest that I couldn't fix everything.
Yeah.
We didn't even always agree on everything, but I always would try to listen and then carry that message forward. So I will carry that message forward. I will make sure that the current leadership either sees this. I think they watch it anyway, but we'll have that conversation again. I just ask everybody just to remember how crazy times these are, and what the alternatives are sometimes of having, some retired or some ex San Francisco police chief as the chief of the Border Patrol instead of somebody that came up in the green. There's pros and cons of both of that. At least,
Yeah, I'm thinking
at least it would
maybe if it was an
unify the hate.
outsider,
Yeah.
maybe if it was an outsider, we could just all rally against him and we'd all be united. You know what I mean? But
That's my biggest worry, and I'd like to end on that. Please don't destroy the Border Patrol family from within. That's the literally this administration. Okay, I'm going to be a little more transparent than normal. The new chief of staff, when she first came into CBP, the disdain for the organization, it was just driven. There's a lot of Zooms like this, right? You could just see her body language and the disdain. And I finally had a conversation with her about it. And her first response was, "Oh, my friends told me cops would be judging all the time, whatever, It's a different world. Like, they literally live in this utopian kind of this mindset where facts were almost irrelevant. It was a different dynamic and they told me to my face that they didn't trust the Border Patrol. They didn't trust me. They didn't trust any of the leadership. I don't think any chief had ever dealt with that before. And that's what the current leadership is still dealing with them. And now they're dealing with them at a time when all their plans are exploding in their face. Exactly. So even though until recently, it was only mainstream media not mainstream media. There's like 9 Democrats now that are screaming, "Hey, this is out of control. Where you got to fix the border. This is about national security," and that's growing. And there's fractures within their armor. I mean, they nominated a guy. They confirmed a guy to be the commissioner that thinks that where aliens are processed screws up CBP's processing somehow. Anyway, it's falling apart. And I think if we stay together as a family, stay tight, let's just not kill each other. Let's not fire rounds at each other. Fire rounds at them. The chief of the Border Patrol, whether you like what he says or not, I'll just tell you, even when I was chief, those big policies like the terminology memo, they're determined by other people. All you do is make them know the left and right boundaries, what the consequences are, and then you have to basically act on it. The people that we need to aim that hate at right now, and hate in a positive way, meaning that they're destroying our country and we need to fight for our country. That was the oath we took, not anything else. It was to the Constitution of this country. Is the Biden administration, Lise Clavel, Blas Nieto, the current commissioner of CBP, Mayorkas, they're the ones that are intentionally making decisions every day and then giving orders to Border Patrol to be carried out. I guarantee there's nobody, including the chief of Border Patrol right now, that is intentionally creating a situation where we just release people into the U.S. No. They're trying to mitigate it the way they can. So talk to your friends, get the message out there that border security is just like your home. It's not unreasonable to ask people to come through our front door, and it's not unreasonable to stop people from sneaking into our home if they try to come in anywhere other than the front door. Border security is exactly the same. Get out of this whole immigration, migration, touchy-feely. The emotions shut the conversation down. But the only way we're going to fix this is to basically get some people back in office that care about this country. And I hate to sound partisan because I'm not partisan. I don't care if they're Republican or Democrat. But if they support the United States, they support border security, then they have my support, and we need to get them in office so we can win this back. Let's just not kill each other in the meantime. Yeah, I appreciate those words, Chief. I guess I'm gonna have to take some of those to heart, because I think you might have been talking a little to me, but I won't necessarily. It's just big picture. The frustration is real, right? I know. You're right. But I'll tell you something that I am honored that you took the time, because I know you're so busy, and I think you were down here visiting family, and you spent Easter here with your family, but you took this opportunity to humble us, here in O Patrol HQ, because again, the mission here at O Patrol was, yes, I decided I was going to sell a few products and be a filthy capitalist, and I'm not going to apologize for that. But my mission is to honor the legacy, right? But to honor it in a way where I want to take the old patrol and the young patrol, the youngsters, and bring them together, because it's one long thread, Chief, of the spirit of the patrol. Those guys in the old days that were the sign cutters, right? Ab Taylor, Tom Johnson, we can name a million of them from everywhere, right? That were these sign cutters. We got those guys today.
Those guys that can sniff out dope on the freeway better than a dog can, those guys are still here today. And if they had been in the patrol 20, 30 years ago, we'd have been talking about them. So that thread has not broken. The spirit of the patrol and who these guys are, and our go-getters, they're still in the patrol. So I'm trying to keep that thread together tight so that we realize that's our heritage that we are fulfilling. That's our legacy we're continuing, and then we're handing off the legacy to somebody else as well. So that's been my primary mission. I have been outspoken. I have gone against my own heart and mind to say some things I shouldn't, maybe I shouldn't have said. I don't know. At this point, I feel like I was reflecting all the feeling and emotion that was being piled on me and sending it out in a way that it could be said without the repercussions of these poor guys right now. Everything's being scrutinized, everything they post, everything they say. They were even told at musters that, we can't do nothing about Maza and Old Patrol HQ, but we sure can do something about you posting and responding to what he does. So they're paying close attention. I also know for a fact that our page here starts out most of the conversations at STRATCOMs across the country, which again, that wasn't my intent. That was not my intent, but now I feel an obligation, just like, not just like you, because you're in a far better position to do far more good than I can, but at least I can give the ones that are coming to me, the ones that are pouring their heart out, the ones that call me on the phone and can't even breathe because they're so exasperated, Chief, that I have to say, stop and catch your breath. Just stop and catch your breath for a minute. Then we talk. I'm going to be right here. And they're just exhausted, Chief. They're worn out to the bone, exhausted, just wanting one good reason. And I think you gave us plenty here today, plenty to think about, plenty to, again, the guy next to us has always been the most important guy, right? The people, the management taking care of us, we take care of them, and sticking this one through because the pendulum will turn.
And let me end on this real quick. We talked about the mandatory mentoring, the old choir practices, right? Sorry,
Yes.
my Golden's just going nuts right now. That doesn't mean, even back then, you heard stuff you didn't want to hear.
Yes.
So that doesn't mean you shouldn't say it. So please don't take anything I said on that side. There's a difference between raising legitimate concerns, stuff we would have brought up at the old choir practice about, dude, you about got me killed, or what was that? You're an idiot.
Yeah.
We didn't sugarcoat stuff at all.
No.
That's what I love about the Border Patrol. But what I also loved about the Border Patrol was it was still family, and almost like getting an argument with your family.
Yes.
When you came to work the next day, you put your head down and you went back to work, right?
Yes.
It does. We should never, I don't ever want the Border Patrol to get into this feeling where you can't vent, right? Or and hopefully the guys I went to a couple of musters where people said not very nice things to me. Hopefully I didn't, shut it down, because whatever you're feeling is freaking real.
You're right.
And when you bottle that stuff up inside and then you take it out on a suspect by accident, not because you mean to, but it's human nature, that shit doesn't fly, and it's going to get you in a lot of trouble, pardon my language. But literally, this should be a safe family. We should be able to vent. You should be able to help spread the message that what you're hearing from the troops, just like I do. But at the end of the day, I just want to make sure we do it all in a way that people have to hear it, but that we don't crucify them over it. You know what I mean? Like, we just make sure that they hear it, and then we stay a family. And I always say it's a Jerry Springer family, because we all have aunts and uncles.
We put the fun in dysfunctional.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you have to like everybody, but you're still going to have their back the next day.
Absolutely, Chief. But there are certain things in the patrol that are, that are a pain in the ass part of the job. And then there's the morale breakers, right? Not having enough people to work the shift, not having enough rides, not having enough resources, supplies. That's been a problem since 1924. Okay, that's not a morale breaker. That's the job. That's what you do. We do a lot with a little. Yeah. But we can differentiate about that, and the choir practice, like you said, it had been something that was a useful tool, and it could still have its place here without all the drinking, I'm sure, without all the DUIs, of course. But we are a family, and we need to remain a family. And like you said, at the end of the day, it's all about us taking care of each other through any storm so that we can survive on the other side and make it to that glorious retirement day where we can enjoy the fruits of our labors.
Hey, appreciate that. And I'm going to give two selfless plugs here. I really do appreciate what you do to help keep the message out there, not just selling stuff, but it really has become kind of a forum where people can share information and
Thank you, Chief.
But a lot of these guys that are retiring or not, you may or may not know, Gil's actually helped in this too, but we have a Border Patrol Museum, but it's funded by donations. It's funded by agents signing up.
Mhm.
We're trying to actually improve that, but that's critically important as well. And then there's another organization that I really just got to know more about when I was chief. Is the Fraternal Order of Retired Border Patrol
Mhm.
Officers. Man, some of the conversations I had with these old guys, like I got sent by an old Border Patrol chief. I didn't even realize who he was until he told me. But those stories and all that, I encourage you guys to kind of dig in a little, because
Yeah.
it will also reinvigorate that sense of pride in times like this, where you're not really probably going to get that sense of pride at work. That's just a reality some days. It'll remind you everything we came from, how we've improved, and it'll give you hope for the future as well. It's not just about the past. So please reach out to those, support them if you can. And if nothing else, they're a resource for you to kind of see what some of our, people before us all went through.
Yeah. I also know for a fact that there was a certain chief in last year's 4-Ball that partied till 3 a.m. with his buddies out there talking war stories all night long. So
I have no idea.
yeah, I don't know how he made it home, but I'm glad to see
Yeah.
that. Glad to, I heard he made it home, so that's cool.
Because the room was like 5 feet away.
Yeah, the room, right?
Yeah.
That was a good room.
All right. Hey, thank you for having me on.
Chief.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for everything, Chief, and again for your kind words and.